Hey, you. I normally don't do commentary style videos because I feel like there are enough of those on YouTube and they're really easy to do. But that being said, today I felt like this is something that I wanted to talk about, something that I'm actually interested in bringing up to you. So today we're going to be talking about one of the best and most iconic YouTubers of all time, Ryan Higa, aka Niga Higa, and specifically, we're going to be talking about a video he did a couple years ago titled A World Without Police. I think this video was made in the wake of a video going viral where a police officer brutally assaulted a student over them not getting out their phone. I think that's when it came out, but it was definitely sometime around 2016 or 17. Maybe a little earlier, I don't know. You get the general time frame that I'm talking about. And that video stayed up for a while. I watched it a couple times. Then something happened. In 2020, there was the whole outrage over George Floyd's death and the worldwide protests that sparked because of it. I think this was around the time that Ryan decided to take down the video. And this is something that he normally doesn't do. He normally doesn't take down his videos, but this particular one, he decided that's what he wanted to do. So why did he do that? Was it because the points he made he doesn't agree with anymore? Or is it because he said some super problematic things that wouldn't have flown with today's audience, even though it wasn't that long ago, it was like 5 years ago. Either way, is it really that bad? Thankfully, the internet being the internet, there are re-uploads that I managed to stumble across, and so I watched them, and I decided to see if this video aged well, if what Ryan is saying actually holds up to what people have been advocating for in these modern times. Well, at least in 2020 and onward. Now, before we get into the video, I just want to say this. I don't want this video to be me going, oh wow, Ryan is such an ignorant, racist bigot. But at the same time, I don't want this to be, oh wow, Ryan's right, and the woke mob is just coming after him for no reason. I don't want to go off of either of those deep ends, and I want this to be an open discussion. This is just my opinion. This is just what I think about Ryan's video, and perhaps Ryan even thinks very differently from what I'm about to go into. So, without further ado, let's dive into the video. So, we start off with Ryan talking about police brutality, or talking about police brutality. He's setting the stage and giving us an idea of what he's going to be covering in today's video.
So I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys have seen it just as much as I have, but these days, my entire Facebook feed, my entire Twitter, everything online has been filled with things about police brutality. And not always, but most of the time, the victim happens to be black.
He brings up a point that I'm not so sure about. He says that he's seen a lot of videos of people deliberately pissing off the police for the sake of clout.
At first, when I watched these videos, I was like, oh my gosh, this is terrible. I was glad that all these videos were going viral so that we could expose these corrupt and racist policemen. But I feel like these days, people are using the whole police brutality trend for their own selfish reasons. Whether it's to get a viral video out of it, or to get an arrest, or even to just further the world's hate for police.
For the record, I don't know of any videos to back up this claim. For what I know, Ryan could be 100% telling the truth about this, and I'll give it to him. He doesn't seem like the type to lie about something this serious. I will say, I believe him. On that note, I actually do remember watching a video a long time ago of this one woman talking to a police officer at some kind of crime scene. According to the Articles of Confederation, I am
pursuant to the Articles of Confederation, you can look it up. It's in the United States Book of Codes. It is your laws you have to follow.
Yada, 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 yada. Something like that. And perhaps Ryan saw that video too, and that's what he's talking about. And perhaps there are plenty of other videos floating around like that. So I'll give it to Ryan. What he's saying could be 100% true here. With 8 billion people in the world, there will be some that want to piss off the police for clout. You know, that's inevitable. So then he does this skit where he explains what he normally sees in these videos of people pissing off the police, of course being exaggerated for comedic purposes, and the the little skit itself is actually kind of funny, you know. Black bars matter. That's that's
Why am I under arrest?
You wanna know what you did?
What did I do?
You're filming vertically. How hard is it to film it horizontally? You just have to turn it 90 degrees and that's it. You want those black bars next to your video, huh?
No, sir.
it's typical Ryan Higa style humor, and it works. So I'm not gonna clown on him for that. It's funny. It's funny. If you don't find it funny, then whatever. So then he goes into the point of that these people saying "F the police" and all cops are bad are part of the problem. And they're using the exact rhetoric that racist people use against ethnic minorities.
Don't get me wrong, I agree 100% that police brutality and racial discrimination is an issue, but it's not just the police. It's all of you who hate the police and harass them and say things like, the police. The police are evil. Police are all racist. We're better off without them. Do you have any idea how ironic that is? Most of the people saying these things and leaving these comments are minorities, not just black people, Asians, Hispanics, pretty much any other minority that feels like they've been discriminated against their whole lives. And you're doing the exact same thing, but to policemen.
Which I kind of have a problem with. Like, when you think about it, to an extent, yeah, it makes sense, you know, the whole, oh wow, I saw these cops do these bad things, therefore all cops are bad. It sounds like the same thing as saying, oh wow, I saw these black people doing bad stuff, therefore all black people are bad, you know. So it sounds like discriminatory rhetoric of a kind, but at the same time, one has to realize, and people say this a lot, and I kind of agree with them, that you know, you can choose to be a police officer. You can choose that. It's not something you're born with. But you can't choose to be black. That's something you have to live with. That's one thing that I really thought about when watching this video, is that you can choose to be a cop. You don't have to choose to take all this all cops are bad stuff. But then again, that is, of course, your choice if you want to be a cop. But if you're a bad cop, then don't be surprised when people use you as an example of why all cops are bad. And then Ryan goes into this point that I really don't like, and I'll explain it. He talks about how, you know, police are the way they are. They're a-holes, they're terrible because of us, because they have to deal with a-holes and terrible people like us every single day.
Police officers have to deal with every single day. And if you have to deal with day after day after day after day, eventually you become an as well.
And I don't really think that's true. I think it has to do more with the type of conduct that they're taught. I mean, they're coming in fully strapped in with the bulletproof vests, belts full of deadly weapons, and they got the assault rifles in the trunk of their cars and whatnot. They got all this stuff. They're decked out, and I feel like this would definitely give them some kind of power complex, which they think to themselves that they can get away with more than they really should, in terms of how to treat people. You know, they can go ahead and fire off a few rounds if they feel even remotely threatened. So I think that's my personal take on why police are so brutal. It doesn't have to do with them being tired of other people. You know, we all get tired of other people, but we all have our own unique ways of taking care of it. Merely being a police officer doesn't mean you're going to become a serious a-hole. That's my general point. I also think it has to do with probably with the form of training they get in terms of how police officers are trained. I saw this some more news video about how different police units across the country are trained. It goes into detail about the problems with it and why it potentially leads to police officers doing really dangerous and deadly stuff. So I think that would more have to do with why police can be potentially very brutal towards people without even knowing of it, because they were trained to be that way. That's my personal take on it, once again. So once Ryan talks about this for a bit, then he goes into a little bit about how without police there would be complete chaos in the world and it would be awful and everything's the worst.
Look, if we lived in a world without police, there would be no one there to enforce the rules. Therefore, there would be no rules. And if there's no rules, there would be more thefts, murders, rapes. We'd become primitive. Primitive like the Stone Age, where there was no order. And if there's no order, there would be no schools. No schools means that everyone would be dumb. And if everybody was dumb, we wouldn't have had the greatest inventions and discoveries like electricity. And without electricity, we wouldn't have TVs or iPhones or laptops. And if we don't have those, we won't be able to watch Netflix anymore. No Netflix means there's also no chill. No Netflix and chill, people won't be able to reproduce anymore. And without kids, people with the last name Kardashian or Jenner would no longer have fans.
Again, typical Ryan Higa, exaggerated for the sake of comedy. You know, I have no problem with that. But at the same time, while you're trying to make a logical point, Ryan, it is a bit of a slippery slope. I mean, in America here, if we completely abolish the police, then I don't think that would create utter anarchy. Not very soon, at least. I mean, at first you might have your chaos across the country, but then the US has the biggest military in the world, so we could easily, the government could easily just deploy those guys. And yeah. So yeah, I definitely have a problem with Ryan's point about how if we abolish the police, then that would mean total chaos. No, but I do think we shouldn't abolish the police. I do think we do need a police force, just we need to do better with the one we have, and we need to train them to be less aggressive. I think that would really help. He also talks about how, you know, we're basing our judgment off of less than 1% of cops, and
Overall, all I'm trying to say is we all know that there's racist, discriminative cops out there. We've all seen the videos. But don't judge and hate an entire group of people based on a few bad ones. Even if you saw 100 videos of cops being racist, or even 1,000, even 10,000, that's not even 1% of the entire police force in the US. And yet we're basing our entire judgment based on that less than 1%? That's the definition of discrimination.
I don't know the statistics, but I'm not sure if less than 1% is really accurate. I would probably think that it'd be more than 1%. The way that police were super brutal towards protesters during the summer of 2020, I think really demonstrates this. So a good 90+% of protests were peaceful, and many of them that went violent were because of police officers. And I've seen all the videos, and I'm not going to show them here because they're pretty triggering. Seeing that, it makes me think, you know, less than 1% of cops are this brutal. If this is how cops behave towards people protesting, then, you know, that's pretty bad. I definitely wouldn't call that less than 1%. So, yeah, I don't really agree with Ryan's point. And then he finally closes off the video with a witty remark to bring everything together, and tee and that's the end. So that's the video. My overall thoughts is, while I see the point Ryan is trying to make, I don't think the video fully gets into the root of the problem that is police brutality. Why police brutality is the way it is. I think it is a slightly naive perspective that doesn't really see the full picture of what is the police force, why it is the way it is, how it became how it is. And so that's why the video has its problems and is not all that agreeable, at least for me, and some people on Twitter. That's, again, this is just my take, you know, and this is just me rambling on for however long I thought I could. If you have other thoughts, if you don't agree with me, then you can always leave your thoughts in the comments below. You can go off. Just go off if you want. It's your choice. Right, that's all. I don't know if I'll be doing these commentary style videos all that often, but if I do, then hey, I'll see you in the next one. But until then, I will see you in another video that will probably not be a commentary video. Probably just be a skit. Alright. Bye.